Hi everyone, hope you're all keeping well. So today I'm making this video because I want to talk to you guys all about autism. I want to talk to you all about what it is, and I basically want to share with you my experience with autism, because I too am autistic, and I want to share my story basically with you guys about my life with autism. So autism, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically a disability that is caused by differences in the brain. As an autistic person, my brain is different to people who are not autistic. It's basically different to their brains. I see the world differently, and I may do things in a certain way that are different to others, and that's what other autistic people will probably say when they're expressing what autism basically is. So, and yeah, people with autism act in different ways and maybe react differently to certain things. One thing that autism can affect is socializing. People with autism find it hard to socialize with people and basically speak to people. They'll maybe keep to themselves and all that. And eye contact is really a big part of autism. If someone's talking to someone with autism, the autistic person might not make eye contact with them, and that's certainly something that I've had trouble with in my life, is making eye contact with people. There's times where if someone's talking to me and I might be talking back to them, but I might not be making eye contact with them, and it can be quite a hard thing. People making eye with autism, if they have to make eye contact, it can be a bit overwhelming for them. It can be a bit of a struggle. It can be a real struggle. It can really just be very overwhelming. It can make them feel a bit anxious, and that's another thing. Anxiety can play a part as well. So yeah, making eye contact, if they're doing stuff that's making them uncomfortable, it can make them a bit anxious and all that, and that can play a really big part in autism, in my view anyway. And that can also play a part in routine. People with autism might have a certain routine, but if that routine gets like, let's say it doesn't go according to plan, so to speak, it can be a bit overwhelming. Let's say you were doing something, you had to do it at a certain time. Let's say you had to do it at exactly 5 o'clock, and let's say if it happened, even if it was just 1 minute later, it can just be a huge, uh, just completely overwhelming, basically. And it's just stuff like that, and expressing themselves can be a hard thing. I don't know if you guys are noticing I'm having a hard time expressing it at the moment. I think that can be a big part, just expressing myself and getting my words out. So yeah, if you're wondering maybe why I'm pausing a lot, is like I said, it's just trying to find the words and expressing myself. So yeah, that could be another trait to autism. Loud noises, that is a very big thing. Let's say it can be any loud noise. It could be like in a supermarket. There's some people with autism that might go into a supermarket and find it overwhelming because there's just too many people around. There's a lot of noise, and it can just be a bit overwhelming and whatnot. So yeah, that can play a really big part. And repeating themselves a lot. Again, you might find I'm repeating a few words a lot when I'm explaining again. That can play a really big part in autism. Repeating yourself, or not just saying stuff but doing certain things repetitively because that's how they feel comfortable. So there's a few common traits for autism. You get some people with autism who are quite severe. You get some people with autism who just can't talk. They will not talk at all. They won't communicate or anything like that. And you get the other people with autism who can communicate, but they still have those certain traits like eye contact, overwhelming noises, a little bit of anxiety, and all that stuff. And yeah, and sometimes it can be hard to express how you feel to others, especially if you're trying to explain to someone who doesn't understand autism. That can be a really big thing, and that's certainly something that's going on in my life at the moment. There's a couple of people who just don't understand my autism, and I try to express my autism to them, but they just don't really understand it, and it can be a hard thing to do sometimes. And one key thing to remember is people with autism, it doesn't make them, obviously people with autism see things differently, but you can still live like a normal happy life. You could still have a relationship with someone, get married, have a family, get a job. You can still do those things if you are autistic. It's just a case that you might just need a bit of help with them. So for example, in the past few years when I've gone for job interviews, I basically told whoever was interviewing me, I just made them aware that, look, I'm autistic, so I may need help with certain things. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get the job. It just means that there might be certain things I need help with, or there might be a few things that I might do that might seem a bit different, and it just makes them aware. And that's the thing. Some people find it hard to tell people. They might feel a bit embarrassed, and the thing is, you should never feel embarrassed if you've got autism, because one, you should just be open about it as much as you can, because you get two people who do understand it, and they might know people with autism, so it's always important to be open about it if you can, especially if you're going for like a job interview. You need to tell your employer that, look, you're autistic and all that, and if they understand it, then they'll do whatever they can to help. It only makes it worse when maybe you don't tell them, and if they find out later, that's when things can be a bit of a problem. So yeah, try to be open. If you are autistic, try to be open about it. Sometimes I know it can be a bit hard, but sometimes it can be easy because some people do understand it. So in terms of my autism, so I was diagnosed with autism when I was 19. I'm 25 now, so it's been 6.5 years since I was diagnosed. Now the thing is, I've had autism all my life, and that's the thing. If you get autism, it's not something you suddenly get throughout halfway through your life. It's something you'll basically have since you were born. Obviously, you get some people who maybe were autistic when they were really young, like when they were 3 or 4 years of age. You get some people who don't get a diagnosis until maybe in their 40s or 50s. Just remember, if you are autistic and you are diagnosed with it later in life, it's something you've had since you were born, and there's a reason why you've got checked out, because you think it's something you have, and it's something you've had since you were born. And that played a big part when I got told I was diagnosed. um, when I got diagnosed, it was a huge relief for me, basically, because um, when I got diagnosed, I thought I wasn't going to get diagnosed, and there was going to be a real concern. It's like, if I'm not autistic, then what's different about me then? I was going to say the word wrong, but I like to use the word different, because there isn't really anything wrong. We're just different to other people, and that's just how it affects our brain and all that. But yeah, when I was told that I was, like I said, it was relief, because obviously, yes, we got the diagnosis that I wanted, and you know, I could explain to people more now. People would probably understand me a bit more, and it kind of made things a little bit more easier having that diagnosis. And obviously, we tried to get basically my family fought really hard to help me get a diagnosis. We even tried to get me checked out when I was younger, back in school. We went to this place called CAMS, which I think is a place where you can get like a diagnosis for autism for children. We got to get myself checked out for autism from CAMS, but they didn't diagnose me. Looking back, I didn't really understand what was going on or what I was getting checked out on, because I didn't really understand autism all that well. I kind of had an idea that there was something maybe different, or I had some disability or something, but I just didn't know what it was all about. So obviously, when I got told all this, that CAMS never diagnosed me, but apparently, if I remember this correctly, they said to my parents, we think he's on the spectrum, but we're not going to diagnose him, which doesn't really make any sense. If I'm on the spectrum, then surely that means I'm autistic, but they said not. I think the reason why is because they'd have to spend money on resources, and they just didn't want to do that. And it was wrong, basically. It really was wrong. So when I got diagnosed later through this like adult type like clinic, so to speak, they said CAMS were wrong. They should have diagnosed you at that moment, but they never did. But at the end of the day, I got my diagnosis, and it's helped me out a lot being diagnosed. Again, I'm not embarrassed about it, because it's just who I am. You know, I see things differently. I do things in a certain way, but it doesn't stop me from being the person who I am. You know, I do what I can to be a good person and all that. And yeah, like I said, it's just I see things differently, and that's just what autism is all about. So yeah, obviously back in when I was in school, autism certainly played its part. I always kept to myself. I never made any friends. I didn't really talk a lot, and again, that's a part of autism. People don't socialise or interact. I, whenever it was break time at school, I always used to play on my own. There was quite a few reasons why I did that. One, because there was times where kids would like hang around or mess about, and they'd get into trouble, basically, and I didn't want that. So one of the reasons why I was on my own, because I didn't really want to get into trouble. I didn't want to cause trouble, and I felt like if I'm on my own, I can't cause any trouble. But another reason was because when I was on my own, I could escape into my own world, in my head, in my brain. Because like I said, I see the world differently. I could escape into my own world, and it just made me feel safe, basically. I was safe from everyone else. No one could interrupt or invade my own like little world. It was my world. I just felt completely safe, and that's one of the reasons why I like being on my own. And but then there were times I felt a bit like excluded. Like, let's say we had to do a group activity and all that. No one would really want to work with me. The teacher would then have to put me in a group with someone, but they might say, right, everyone pick a partner. No one would pick me, because obviously they thought, because they knew I was different. They didn't know what, but it just felt yeah, it was a big thing, and it happened in a few other groups where we'd have to get into groups of people. I never get picked on. People wouldn't want to do it because they just thought I was different and didn't want to work with me. So that was a really big part of my autism. But as I got older, obviously I got to explain more, and people understood it more, and I've been able to share my story more with people, and I'm still kind of learning more. And there's a lot about autism that I still don't know, and I'm still wanting to learn more about. So yeah, it's something that I think is really still a lot of research is still going into. And another big thing is, let's say a cure came up for autism, would I take it? Quite simply, no, I would not. You could offer me all the money in the world to be cured, I'd still say no, because if I was cured of autism, I'm scared I'd be a different person. It might be a person that no one would like. You know, my parents may look at me if I was cured of autism and I was different, and they might think that's not my son. That is not my son. It's like my sister. She'd be like, that's not my brother. So you could offer me all the money in the world. If a cure was found, no, absolutely not. So basically, that's what autism is all about and what my life with autism has been. There's a lot more I could talk about. If you guys want me to make any more videos about autism, and if you want to learn more, then I'll do it. I'll do some more reading into it, because like I said, I'm still learning more about it. Even though I've been diagnosed with it for 6.5 years and I've had it all my life, I'm still learning more about it every day. And there's so many traits that come up and think, yep, that's me, that's me, that's me, and autism and all that. So yeah, and there's so many other resources you can look into. I recommend you guys check out Chris Packham, who is he's a broadcaster who's been doing TV for years. He is also autistic. He recently did a documentary. You can check it out on BBC iPlayer called Inside Our Autistic Minds. And basically, he gets 4 people with autism to basically share their stories. He helps them basically to make little short films, and basically it helps those films that the people make help them to be open about their autism. People can become more understanding about their autism and why they act in a certain way and why they do things and how it affects them and all that. So yeah, I highly recommend checking that out. Like I said, BBC iPlayer. It's called Chris Packham's Inside Our Autistic Mind. So yeah, that can be a real good thing to watch if you really want to know more about autism. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and thanks for taking the time to watch. Be sure to leave a like and a comment as well, and subscribe to the channel. So yeah, thanks very much guys. I'll talk to you all soon.